I'm hopeful, regardless of the outcome. Boost up positive energy without one. Sorry about the jab, I'm on a holy field. I'm bearing fruit, but demons try to eat them like Yoshi meal. I'll piss them off the Batman like Falcone deals. Jungle full of predators, I know how Mowgli feels. So I got the fire, refuse to live in fear. I can spot suppliers in a fresh roads. Call me private label, I be leaving.
Oh yeah, welcome to episode 151 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, the only Pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and practical living. Thanks everybody with me tonight, and if you would hit that thumbs up so they know to immediately suppress us. And I'm going to be flying solo tonight. Michelle's feeling a bit under the weather. In fact, she's been kind of locked up pretty much all day. Almost flu-like symptoms, something definitely going around. I hear a number of others got the same thing going on. This episode is always brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com. Turn that simp into a pimp. Bam! Heaven's Harvest, y'all, 10% off with promo code PERMA. And I'm going to give you a whole lot of reasons tonight where you might want to put, how do I say it? You might want to put preparedness in the front seat of all the things you got going on, even at this holiday season, because you know as well as I do, these ho-ho-hos up in Washington are doing everything. If you had a map for stupidity, or if you were to look up stupidity in the dictionary, they'd just have pictures. Yeah, all of Congress right there. Yeah, so anyway, I digress, y'all. 10% off with promo code PERMA at Heaven's Harvest. Remember, we always teach you source everything you possibly can and then fill in the gaps with some of these other places. I'm not going to tell you, I know a lot of people want to hear me say this sort of thing in terms of advertisers, but I don't roll that way. If you can source all of your dry goods, and there are a number of places out there, you could even though rice went up, and I want to say about $10 in the last several months, that's something I track pretty regularly. And even still at $25 for a 50-pound bag, it's still a bargain in my view, at least with the way things are going right now. All right, if you want to check us out on the Fountain app, you can also listen to us over there in the audio portion. You can also listen to us anywhere you listen to podcasts. And feel free to leave us comments over there. Now, the problem with Fountain is I can't exactly read the comments right now, but if you want to drop some derivation of Bitcoin that they call SATs over there, SATs, you can do that there. So drop some SATs on some PIMPs. Remember, PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. All right, I'm not going to fool around, y'all. I'm going to get right into it. And once again, I want to thank everybody out there in the chat. Fed up. Let me just go ahead and answer that one right off. Hey, Billy, what's your honest opinion on that deer antler velvet? I got to say, when I was using it, man, I was like gaining muscle and I shouldn't have been. I'm on other things right now and I'm doing other protocols, and I'm kind of, the battery of vitamins that I take is probably about 100 a day. So to find out, I'm doing a lot of R&D, things I'm not really going to talk about right now. I got to basically ease off of other things so I know the effects of the other things, because I don't know if it's the cart or the horse when you get down to brass tacks. So yeah, it did just fine for me when I was using it before, but I'm on the other, let's call it healing modalities or life hacks, all that other stuff like that. So yeah, thanks everybody out here. Saw his comment early on. Now it's with a heavy heart, y'all. I got to say that the Mrazinski, I can never say their name right. Wonderful, nice people. Mrazinski Family Homestead, they lost a 4-year-old boy. Beautiful little child. And yeah, they got a GoFundMe going. We've already donated yesterday, and it's just awful. I forget the nature of the illness and you know, how he passed on, but man, it's always tough when you hear about a loss, but it's especially tough when you hear about kids, especially when you have a love and affinity for kids the way I do. And I just can't even imagine. We've had a couple of children in my family. I had a nephew and a niece all pass away at a very, very young age, like 7, 8 years old, around that range, man. And it's tragic no matter what, but man, you just anguish for the parents out there. So please, folks, give your prayers to the Marinskis, and also, if you can, donate to the GoFundMe. I listed it at the top of the chat. It's under Billy Bond. It's kind of passed on right now. I'm working solo, so I can't exactly work the screen and everything else. But Yeah, y'all. At the very people say, look, praying is the only thing I can do. Look, I got news for y'all. It's the all you can do. It's the most you can do. It is. So don't diminish what your prayers do, because it means, I mean, prayers for me more than once have meant all the difference in the world. And like I said, it is, you know, you're going to the secret place of the Most High, as Psalm 91 says. So, yeah, send up your prayers for those folks. And if you can donate, please do. All right. So other farm news going on right now. Today's another one of those days. It's like Groundhog Day around here, where I'm putting out a lot of compost extract. You've heard me talk about it so much, you're probably sick of hearing me talk about it. But the fact of it is, y'all, the results, we had a demarcation point. I wish there's no way to actually show it on the camera. It is crazy how the areas where we actually hit with the extract, and we're using a sprinkler to do it. I did a video on it a while back. You can see the demarcation point where that extract stopped and where the regular stuff started. The recovery is astonishing. And I'm not overstating it, y'all. I mean, I've been putting this stuff out like crazy. So I did the entire pastures. That's all taken care of. It, you know, it got done. And now I'm doing something of an experiment that I know is going to work. I mean, I've already seen it. But because this stuff is so fungal dominant, I got it going on. I'm basically giving the fungus of my compost a lunchbox as it goes out, as Dr. Ingham calls it. So for me, I had a conversation, strangely enough, with Eric earlier in the week, Eric Sider, that is. And he talked about using wheat flour the thing is, we tested his compost and this stuff was off the charts. It was fantastic. And so he was kind of batting around some of the stuff he's getting and what he's learning and using oat flour. Now, crazy enough, I've never actually put it in the compost to feed fungus, but every single time I send out that compost extract, there's always oat flour. I basically take some steel cut oats, and if folks give it a shot, if you don't believe me, you can even take that stuff and put it in your compost pile, but you want to try as best you can to try to make something of a powder out of it. So I stick it in the Vitamix, blitz it up until it's basically a powder, and then layer it all through the compost. And that's one of those Jeff Lawton tricks that Eric made me aware of. Well, I've been doing it already every time I send out the compost extract. I mean, but I never thought of actually putting it in the compost to increase fungal life. So look, there's another trick I got from my man, Eric, and I'm also using another trick. And I think I've talked about it before, using volcanic rock dust. I got that one from the great Stefan Subkowiak. Got his name right this time. And he's the permaculture orchard guy up in Canada. Got a great YouTube channel. I'm about to turn y'all on to some of his educational work, all of which, everything he has put out, I buy, because the guy has saved me thousands and a lot of elbow grease just using his methods. And then in areas where it makes sense for me, where we overlay some of the other methods where, in a nutshell, let me say it this way. So in our food forest, I don't just use one method. I work on a person's method, and then when I feel like I master it pretty well, then I'll kind of graft it in to what I think is already working for where we are. So in our food forest, in our orchard, it's a combination of, obviously, Bill Mullison, Jeff Lawton, Stefan Subkowiak, heavy on Stefan, Elaine Ingham, oh my goodness, Mark Shepard, and there's probably 5 other people whose methods, I can't say that anything we're doing is truly original. It's an amalgamation of the best parts of all the people that we've studied under. And, I guess if we have a method, I guess you can call it the pimp technique, because it's basically cutting and pasting the very best elements. Now, are all these cut and pasting things that we're doing here, is it going to work for you? Well, maybe not. I mean, probably not, depending on your locale. But it is working like $1,000,000, y'all. And yeah, compost extract is on point. And then back to more weed eating, getting ahead of some pasture. And folks, we're gonna stay on it. I keep pointing this out for the benefit of all the people that are thinking about getting into this space. So many people think it seems like an idyllic lifestyle. And in light of all the crazy, stupid, moronic things going on right now, we see record numbers of people living out of Alan Jackson's song, and they've gone country. Sadly, a lot of these people are making it very, very difficult on themselves because they don't know the repetitive nature of some of the work you have to do. Now, when we film videos, it just happens to be what we're doing that day. It's not, I mean, very, very little. There's almost no, I probably have a lot more subscribers if we spend a little more time on editing and stuff like that. But the idea is we're a how-to channel. We're going to try to present it a little bit better in the future. But the bottom line is that you see, a lot of people see maybe those of us doing YouTube channels, and you think, oh, yeah, I can do that. But what you're not seeing is the background information. Getting up early in the morning, rain, sleet, or snow, you're out there. You feel sick? Bad news. You still got to take care of those animals. I mean, there's times when you're hobbling out there, you got injured. I fell down off the mountain a little while ago. Could have been bad. And I got a little bit bruised up. But guess what? Sheep don't care. They still want to get moved. Nothing cares. That's the bottom line. So it still has to get done. So just have a realistic expectation of what this life is all about and what that can mean for you. So, yeah, more of the mundane stuff, but also really kicking into some things. We're going to start doing microgreens, okay? Now, we've never done that before. And Michelle and I went out yesterday, had to do a bunch of running around, and I hate it every time I do it, but it was very tolerable. I'll get to that in a minute. We're doing a bunch of running around, and she got basically the thing she didn't have to go ahead and kick these microgreens off. I mean, we're empty nesters at this point and got, space. So we're like, okay, maybe we'll take one of these rooms, basically the lab on the other side of this wall, instead of just having a microscope lab where we look at it and examine compost and stuff like that. Maybe we can go ahead and kick off some microgreens in there. And that's going to be the case. Because honestly, y'all, if you taste fresh microgreens, I mean, that are just literally cut with the scissors, and then you taste, I don't care what store you go to, if they didn't cut them that day, they do not taste the same. So I'm like, okay, this is silly, man. You can go broke, absolutely broke buying microgreens full of all the wonderful things out there. But why not just grow them myself? I mean, that's one more thing to add into what we're doing, but hey, we're going to take it on. So that's going to be one of the next things we kick off, microgreens, because honestly, I'm getting my diet back in order. Yeah, I'm going to tell you straight, I'm going to trip on Christmas because I know Michelle is going to lose her ever-loving mind, probably, pumpkin pies, who knows. So I'll trip that one day. But outside of that, it's back to the diet and doing the things that I'm supposed to. Because really, what good is all these hacks and everything if you're eating junk? I'm not really eating junk so much as being, I need to be extremely cautious about my carbohydrate intake. And this time of year, it's easy to kind of fall away when it gets cold. People feel compelled to be inside a little bit more. And I'm no different. And I got a sweet tooth just like everybody else. All right, some other farm news. I'm gonna drop a look, y'all. This is valuable. Now, I've been a butcher for a long time, and I've taught a lot of classes. I was, got all the, I don't know, not that they mean anything, but credentials or whatever the case may be. There's not one part of butchery that I don't feel comfortable around. But one of the things, I think I was telling Ben Holler about it a while back, where folks and the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's going to be a video that I do, but I want you to kind of get ahead of it and think about it. Because you don't necessarily have to buy a whole animal. You can go check out my man, Jack Spearco, and he sent me a video that he did on TikTok where he's buying pieces of a cow from, let's say, Costco or Sam's or whatever, and he'll take it back to the house and process it himself. And he's getting some really awesome Denver steaks and a number of other things out of the deal. So when he does that, not only is he saving a pile of money, but I mean, good night. You can't beat it. So here's what I'm going to suggest to everybody. So when I do my sausage, people really don't understand why I leave everything loose, why I almost never put anything in casings. Now, as far as casings go, you got the intestines you can use. I'm not a big fan of that because I don't like the spongy nature of it. But I'll tell you what I do like, what I don't mind is beef collagen casings. Okay, so why not just put them in beef collagen casings? Because honestly, there's a better way that I learned years ago from a barbecue place in Kansas City. Man, I wish I could remember the name. I know it was in Johnson County. I just can't remember the name of it. But instead of putting their sausages in casings, what I've been doing for a while now is no matter the sausage, I leave it all loose. And let's say I make up some jalapeno sausage. Okay, instead of putting them in the casings and having to deal with a whole nother set of equipment, this is the coolest trick. Instead, use corn husks and roll them up like you would a tamale. For real. I'm telling y'all, it is the coolest trick ever when it comes to making sausage. And it's one of my favorite methods of doing it. So that's one of the videos I'm going to do coming up soon. But I also know that this is that time of year where a lot of people are going to be processing deer. They're going to be processing pigs. They're going to be processing probably a great many things. So instead of feeling as if you got to buy a whole nother piece of equipment, which a lot of times if you get the right grinder, you can run it through there, run it through a second time, depending on how you want your dye. And you can make that all happen. But yeah, you can use corn husks. And no, Debbie, she's saying, do they pick up some of the corn flavor? Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. I mean, it works. It takes a snap to do. You kind of get your feel for it. You just take a little ball of it, stick it down in there, flatten it out, and then roll it up in a corn husk. And you could even do it where you can actually roll it up to a certain extent. Once you get that one rolled up, roll up another one, and then you can smoke them. That's the way I do it. I usually, whenever I do it this way, it's usually going to be smoked 9 times out of 10. Now, as far as breakfast sausage and stuff like that, I don't ever do it that way. It's usually more the savory type sausages, the jalapeno, the verde, some of the other sausages that I make. But yeah, consider doing that when you're processing your stuff. It'll save you processing time. And at the same time, it's also a really, really good method to give you more options. There's a lot of times I leave whole primals in the freezer. When I'm saying primals, I'm talking about, where you break your animal down into major groups. And then as I need it throughout the year, I'll break it down and then say, okay, well, we need more sausage. All right, I'll take this ham. There's only really 2-3 of us around here. I'll take this ham and then I'll break it down and I'll say, okay, I'll make ham roast out of this instead of making, but one of those tricks, honestly, is using corn husks. I think you're going to dig it if you give it a shot. And plus it saves you a ton of processing time. All right. So, got a little flack over a short I did a while ago regarding those. If I say it here, y'all, they're going to flag me. So just kind of work with me here. Those streaks you see in the sky. And I was critical about it, man. Some people were rather indignant about it. And let me just go ahead and put a notice out here, y'all. Look, you got a problem with something, I say, look, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not going to take any offense. I really believe that the mark of any thinker is the ability to hear any idea, any thought, any whatever without necessarily agreeing or disagreeing with it. So if you come down on a ton of bricks like me, knock yourself out. I can examine any kind of criticism. I don't mind it. In fact, I prefer to be edified. If you doubt me, ask Pastor Lon, because he's had to straighten me out a time or two. But the point of it being is that with all these things going on right now, people are very passionate about, oh, you're a nut job, you're whatever, you're this, you're that, you're that. Well, if you knew the full extent of some of the things I think, you might think even worse. But the part I want to address is when you reach out to me and you say, if you do this, I will fill in the blank. Let me just say emphatically, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Because I'm not a person that responds well to threats. And I'm certainly not a person who responds well of all the, not qualities, but all the awful things in people. Manipulation is what I detest most. Yes, I have because of how I was raised, in the house I was raised, I have a healthy dislike for manipulation. So if you think I'm just going to go groveling back to you, there's very little I say. When you speak extemporaneously the way I do sometimes things may not come out the way you intended. Sometimes they come out and maybe you could have said it a little better or had a better tone to it. And you can't undo it, especially when I'm doing a live broadcast like this. So, in other cases where maybe I had a minute or two to think about it, yesterday morning when I got up and I saw those streaks, I'm like, Michelle was furious. And so was I, because typical, every time they go up, there's going to be some weird weather. There's going to be some crazy things that go on. And it's like clockwork. Some folks have reached out and said, oh man, it's going to rain 24 hours later. Yeah. Crazy things happen. So, the bigger point in this is not so much that I said it, but I'm going to encourage everybody out there, at least examine those points of view that you may not necessarily agree with. You may be, there are things I listen to sometimes, and I'll give you a prime example. There's a lot of Sorry, y'all. I got to deal with some mic issues right quick. There are some news aggregates, okay? Now, I want to know what my enemy thinks. And from where I come from, that's smart. I want to know, I mean, that's Sun Tzu, I mean, depending on how you want to say it, if you want to act more Chinese or whatever, but, you need to know your enemy. So I listen to every single thing I can get my hands on, a lot of times and sometimes to my own detriment. But in the process of doing all this stuff, I may talk about some of this stuff. I don't necessarily agree with it, may disagree with it, but at least I can consider it. So I'm just going to ask you, in these times where things seem like they're getting crazier and crazier, just maybe consider some other ideas, if nothing else, to find out what not to do, and also to maybe consider the fact that you want to know what your enemy's thinking, or they may not even be your enemy. They may see you as an enemy, but you at least want to know their point of view. Sun Tzu 101, Art of War, y'all. So let's move on to the next thing. So one of the other little things I'm working on, for those that don't know, I've been 25-year IBEW journeyman, and I'm working on ways to mitigate. Right now, I'm really putting some brain work into it, not to just find a way that works for me, but a way that can work universally in terms of a smart meter on your house. Now, that's one of the things I'm working on also. So I'm going to let you know the results as soon as I know it. I'm not going to sit on it or anything like that. People have asked about that because I've done a video recently and then showing you how some of the stuff from Redemption Shield has mitigated some of that. Like I said, I got other things coming right now that I'm going to test, and I'll let you know the results of that. But one of the big things that I'm working on is smart meter mitigation. Folks, I'm out there testing this stuff with my instruments. And this stuff, at first I said it wasn't that bad, but like a dummy, I later on realized, well, okay, this thing isn't constantly transmitting. It's pulsing at certain times. It would be stupid on the part of the power company to give it a play-by-play. So it'll gather up some data, and then at a certain point in time, it's going to upload, it's going to transmit. And believe me, it's putting out some serious transmission. So I'm working on that. So y'all stay tuned for that. Now, I want to talk about one more thing. I told you yesterday, Michelle and I did a little bit of running around. And when we do, y'all, you can actually, I'm going somewhere with this, so bear with me. When we do any running around, there's a combination of a bunch of things going on. Number one, I'm not a person that ever feels like he needs a vacation, because honestly, I love what I do. I jump out of bed every day. Can't wait to go out there and do it. Can't wait for the next adventure. I literally live my dream. So I never feel a need to escape, or any thought of escapism never, crosses my mind. So we have to do a bunch of running around town. I know people enjoy that sort of thing. I ain't one of them. And Michelle ain't either, especially ever since the whole pestilence thing came across, everything just doesn't feel the same. But we had to do especially a lot of running around yesterday. And here's what I noticed, y'all, and this is big for me, is that normally I am climbing the walls whenever I have to go to a city, and especially when it involves any kind of shopping. And I was like, okay, we're sitting outside the store and waiting on Michelle, and I am easy like Sunday morning, and I can't figure out why. It's so chill. I'm so chill that I'm like, I don't understand what's going on right now. And then it hit me. I was like, man, I've been chill for like 2 days now. Oh, snap. The only thing I changed, was taking those cold showers, y'all. So I started that up. I kid you. When I did them before, it was always in the evening. So I didn't have a basis of comparison to how it did during the day. Y'all, for 2 days straight, it's like things can happen. And I've never taken Prozac or any stuff like that, but I've heard from other people that have that, you just feel like you're a zombie. You're not really there. You're just kind of occupying your body. I'm telling you what, the only thing that accounts for it are these cold showers. I'm not aggravated. I'm not irritated. I mean, yeah, I've been doing a meditation so I can get over that stuff, because like I said, there's a reason I don't leave much. I leave if I'm going to be in the company of the people that are in this chat right now. I know we're going to have a lot in common. But if I got to listen to some marching in town tell me that, he's some trans-testicle polar bear, y'all, I ain't digging it. So, I mean, that's just how I'm built. But I got to say, these cold showers, 2 days, well, I guess this make 3 days right now. I mean, normally my tension is through the roof when I got to go to town, and I'm like so chill. So when Michelle got out of the store, got in the truck, and I'm like, hey, you ain't going to believe this, man, but I am not tripping right now. And so she got a good laugh out of it too, I think. And so did I. And I'm like, good night, man. These cold showers, it sucks. I ain't even going to lie to you. So the last couple of times I've been adding 10 seconds to every bit that I'm in there. So today I think I was up to about 50 seconds. And that's not even the recommended daily allowance that you're supposed to have of this stuff. Supposedly it's between 3 to 5 minutes with water below 50 degrees. Okay, well, I did, 30, 40, and then 50 seconds. And I got to say, y'all, my disposition, everything about me feels awesome. I'm not going to kid you. I mean, I keep hearing all these people talk about this thing, and I'm like, okay, let me give this an honest try. And I'm going to continue to work my way up. I'll give you a play-by-play, but y'all, I've been so chill as of late that it freaks me out. And I know it ain't just the meditation. It's got to be these cold showers. So I don't know what to make of it outside of, hey, it's working. So, there you have it. All right, y'all. Before we go into Pastor Lon, I want to remind you that Redemption Shield has a special right now. You get 10% off in addition to the 20% that they currently have right now. All that stuff you saw me testing in the video the other day, they were the only company. Believe me, I reached out to a number of them saying, hey, let me test your products and I'll let everybody know, good or ill, how it works out. Redemption Shield was the only ones that said, yeah, okay, yeah, test it out. If it don't do what it says it does, let everybody know. So that's why I said, okay, let me try it out. Worked even better, performed even better than I thought it would. And by the way, I took one of their blankets. My niece, who lives with us, gave her one of the blankets it's like a sheet you put on the bed last night. She gets up and she says, Uncle Billy, that I can't believe how well I slept. And I'm like, yeah, I can tell because I'm in here creeping around. It's 10 o'clock and you still ain't up. But yeah, she's sleeping like $1,000,000. Michelle, who has always struggled with sleep, is, getting it done. There's DIY ways to do this, y'all, and I've showed you that on Patreon. But if you need anything, go over there because I think until the end of the year, you're essentially going to get 30% off with promo code PERMA at Redemption Shield, and we'll have a link, I think, in the show notes. If not, just go to redemptionshield.com and get your discount. All right, with that said, y'all, hopefully I don't screw this up because I'm flying solo tonight. We'll see how it goes. We're going to go straight into the homesteading pastor, Pastor Lon.
Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Lon. The Bible says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32, and be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you. As born-again believers, we should be kind one to another. I know that we need to stand up and be bold for what we believe in at times, but also we need to be kind-hearted one toward another and forgive one another. We got a lot of evilness and hatred in the world today. It should not be coming from born-again believers. So remember this, when people are getting under your skin and you feel like you don't need to forgive them, remember, we used to get under God's skin before we were saved, and he forgave us. And he had a lot of patience with us. So we'll think about the patience he had with us. Maybe that would make it a little easier for us to have patience with other people. So let's be kind-hearted to one another, forgive one another, and let's make this place on earth as good as we can until we go home.
Right on. There's Pastor Lon, homesteading pastor. If you haven't yet, y'all go over there, subscribe on his YouTube channel. You'll be edified and glad you did. Proud to call him my pastor and my friend. Regarding what he said there, that's one of the things that I pray when Michelle and I, before we go to bed every night, we pray. Unless, like last night, I'm interviewing a guy that, by the way, y'all, that one ain't going to be on YouTube. That's an extraordinary conversation I had last night. That'll be out next Wednesday. It's Nathan Reynolds. And folks, you ain't even going to believe that story, but that's another thing altogether. But one of the things we pray about is that the Lord allows me to forgive the way he forgives me, because Lord knows, I've been forgiven for a whole lot. So that's one of those things that I tend to forget sometimes. So, let's definitely keep that in mind because, especially for those people that really, really did you wrong. We all got them. You might even been that person. I mean, all of us to some extent need some forgiveness. So especially now these days where things are crazier. Has anybody else noticed that when you're out and about, when you do go out and about, there is zero festive mood in the air? Now, you're hearing this from a guy who for years hasn't celebrated Christmas because I can't stand the commercialism of it. And there are other aspects as well that I'm not a big fan of. But you could always, around this time of year, you'd always get that, you kind of get that, I don't know, festive feeling. It always felt like it. But as of late, everywhere I turn, it doesn't seem like there's even the slightest bit of any, what they call Christmas cheer. So, holler if you hear me, y'all, because for some reason, I think I know the reasons why, but I'm definitely not seeing it. All right, with that said, y'all, we're going to go straight into the good news section. Typically in the past, we've had the bad news, good news section. Now it's all good news. And look, I'm not going to pull any tricks this time. For real, y'all. It is really all good news. All right, so check this one out. From Good Housekeeping, the 5 health benefits of sun in the winter. Reason why I'm bringing this up, y'all, when it gets cold outside now, granted, here I am in the mountains of North Carolina, and we have the kind of place that, don't get jealous because I'm going to tell you the honest truth. In the summer, it doesn't get hot here. In the winter, it doesn't get cold here. In fact, today, it was 48 degrees and I'm out in a t-shirt. And there's a reason for that. Number one is our altitude. So the lower the humidity, the less you can wear and feel perfectly fine. Number two, I'm trying to get that sun. And number three, it's really not even cold, even though I might appear a little bit tropical. So it's not cold for me. So let me just kick out some of these reasons. Vitamin D, which everybody seems to know about, but I just heard from a couple of different people saying that the reason people get, typically in the winter, you come down with these ailments, these colds, is because we're covering up. It's not necessarily that there's a bug floating around in the air, because honestly, there are way more microorganisms that are way more active in summer and when the weather is warm. And his reasoning is that because we have much limited vitamin D, we're covering up, we're inside. That's part of the reason why we're getting sick half the time in the winter. So get out there, like we've talked about before in some of these videos, get out there, ground, get some of that vitamin D. Healthier weight, believe it or not, it has helped a great deal for, they did studies concerning diabetes and people that are, having certain kind of ailments. Obviously, getting out there made all the difference in the world. Obviously, a better mood. I think you get better mood when you have more vitamin D. I see the correlation in places where I've spent, like up in Alaska, where, we were ready to kill each other because we were up there in winter, almost no sunlight, almost never any sunlight, to be honest with you, at that time. And when you did, it was like at such a weird angle, and we were in the bush, so in the tundra, so we didn't really get much of it. But yeah, you can definitely tell a difference in your mood. Improved sleep. That's why I was talking before last week about getting that morning sun. It sets your rhythm up in a way that nothing else can replicate. Now, there are those out there, some of the biohackers, that are going to tell you, hey, just look into this light system that we have, and that'll get you squared away. Look, I'm always going to favor on the side of what God provided instead of what man provided. And then obviously improve sleep, like I said, and then it's going to lower your blood pressure. So they did a lot of, according to this article, the University of Edinburgh basically showed that there was just 20-minute sessions lowered blood pressure considerably. So that's something also to consider. Okay, other good news. This one here is about, a lot of us are wondering what good fats to take in. Now, if you're old enough like me, you remember, my parents, they thought they were doing a better thing by eating margarine. We now know that basically is poison. And good old-fashioned butter would have been better for you anyway. In fact, it probably would have been cheaper back in the day. But all these benefits of olive oil. Now, I want to warn you, because even Michael Savage has talked about this a great deal as far as olive oil, that, believe it or not, some of the best stuff that you can buy off the shelf, believe it or not, is at Costco. I know that sounds crazy, but I think it's that Kirkland brand that they have at Costco, believe it or not, ranked up as some pretty good olive oil. Now, Mark Sisson from Mark's Daily Apple, they got a bomb place that does it organically out in California. And then I got this other one, and I use it exclusively, not for any kind of cooking or anything like that. I take basically a tablespoon of this olive oil, just drink it straight, every time I eat. And then this one came from that Brian Johnson. He's that biohacker. And he said, talked about how much special, how they had sourced from all over the planet, all this stuff. Well, look, yeah, it does taste significantly better than any store-bought olive oil that I've ever had. But you don't necessarily need that. Just make sure you get some good, honest to goodness olive oil. You don't want to get that stuff where it came from China, just like all the honey that comes over right now from China. That stuff is so synthetic. They got to look at it under a microscope to know whether or not it's good. So a lot of that is also happening with things like olive oil. So obviously the healthy fats obviously contains a large amount of antioxidants. Now that I didn't know until I read this article. So, hey, add that to it. Also, if you're doing anything even close to a keto diet, well, that's a good way to take in some really good fat if you need it. If you're eating a lean meat like I did tonight, I ate these, I made some, some pork sirloins. And for some reason, I don't know, I must have been teaching somebody how to do this. They didn't leave much of a fat ring on this pork, So it was kind of lean. And so, yeah, things like avocado, good fat, things like olive oil, obviously good fat, anti-inflammatory. Some people have done studies on it and find out that it actually prevents strokes. Like, you got to have good olive oil for that. Protection against heart disease. There was a show Michelle and I were watching a while back, and it was talking about all the blue zones in the world, the longest lived cultures, and one of them being in Greece. Man, they drink this oil like it's going out of style, and these people are 100 plus, and they're still out there doing, moving around, even looking like people that were probably in their 60s. So, and then also here's one of the big ones here, not associated with weight gain or obesity. And some people believe that it might fight Alzheimer's. Type 2 diabetes. Look, there's a lot more here, but I just wanted to kind of wet your beak with some of that stuff. Now, third article, I wanted to make sure I try to hit some stuff because it is kind of winter. And this one here is from Healthline, a hobby for all seasons. 7 science-backed benefits of indoor plants. I'm just going to give you the highlights on this one. And some of them are going to seem self-evident, but yeah, they can reduce stress levels. I mean, in fact, they've done tests where if you just put yourself in a room, you take somebody who's just aggravated and they got the probes on them, just put them around a bunch of plants, and there's a symbiosis, almost a commensalism that occurs between humans and plants. And then I remember my mom, she used to talk to them. Yeah. Now you know why I'm a little bit crazy. Yeah, she used to actually talk to them. And, I'm joking, but honestly, there was a Japanese guy that showed that when you speak, that if you think your words don't have power, that life and death is in the tongue. There was a Japanese guy, and I keep forgetting to go look up his name, did that experiment with the water, where he would literally write on tags, put it on a bottle of water, say, like, I hate you on a bottle of water, put another one, I love you. Well, he froze all this water and then looked at it under a microscope after being frozen. And what he found out is that it was a disunity that was just bizarre on all the things that had negative words attached to them. And then just beautiful crystalline structures on everything that was positive. So yes, our words do have power. So just consider that, and honestly, I try to bless everything I put in the ground. I ask the Lord to make this place Goshen in the middle of Egypt. Lord knows we need that. And then it says real plants may sharpen your attention. Working with plants can be therapeutic. That's obvious. Also got another little experiment going on. Man, I'm dropping everything on you guys today. So you've heard me talk about grounding, right? Well, think about this. When you take a plant and you put it in let's say a clay pot and you stick it on the ground, well, it's grounded. But is that plant still grounded if you take it and put it in a synthetic pot or anything else, stick it in the house, and it's not grounded? It's not. So I got a little experiment going on right now with the plants. Some of the starts I got going, particularly the sweet potatoes. I got one set of sweet potatoes that are grounded to the outside and the others that aren't. And I don't want to say too much right now, but that's another one of the experiments I got going. And I'm thinking my hypothesis might blow your mind. We'll give it some time and I'll let you know how it works out. But yeah. So far, it's looking interesting, but it's not enough time to let you know that it's working out for good. But anyway, yeah, I think plants need to be grounded as well. I know we can put them up in balconies and stuff like that, but I think I wonder if we have better results using things that ground the soil inside the pot, because if it's in a plastic synthetic pot, then it's not grounded at all. And they've also shown that working with plants will help you recover from illnesses better. Like I said, I think there's something with that symbiosis, obviously grounding, and then obviously putting your hand in that medium that the plant is growing in. Also, it shows that you can produce it can boost productivity. They've taken them and put them in workplaces, and obviously it's cleansing the air to a certain extent, but it's also, they're finding out that they're actually getting more out of people. Well, they clearly weren't union workers where I came from. We work hard 2 days. First day to show you what you're getting, and the last day to show you that you didn't get all of it. Anyway, plants can improve your whole outlook on work. Yeah, depending on what kind of work you're doing. Plants may also improve the indoor quality, which I've already talked about, of your air. So, I'm going to try. Look, I know I've been a little tongue-in-cheek with some of the good news articles, but honestly, they're tough to find. I kid you not, especially when it has anything to do with farming. But look, I'm a creative person, so there is no way on earth I'm not going to find creative solutions to all this stuff. All right, y'all, we're going to go to Eric Sider. When we get back, we're going to get into the main topic.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip, the city as farm. One of the biggest changes we need to make to our food system is to bring food production back to where people live, to the cities and suburbs. We can then convert the polluting industrial monocrop agriculture to forest and prairies and pay the farmers to benefit the ecosystem rather than subsidize them to poison it and our food. To do this, we would need to create gardens and small farms on the unused land and useless lawns, which is a considerable area. But instead of self-contained separate entities, another way to look at it is the city as farm. So the entirety of a city as one big diverse farm operation with many different products and livelihoods. You would first want to catalog what is already growing in abundance and market that first. Here in Sacramento, there are a lot of mulberry, olive, and citrus going to waste. So you offer to buy it at wholesale, and anyone that wants to can collect it and sell it to you, and then you sell it at retail, at farmers markets, or a store. Once you establish a good market and variety, you can offer the seed stock or tree seedlings to whoever wants to plant them out, with the guarantee to buy the produce at wholesale. There are endless opportunities once you see the city as a farm, and it's the best way to return the surplus of a city back to the city itself. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider, and if you're in need of permaculture t-shirts or remote permaculture consultation and design, head over to ericsider.com.
That's my dog. Sorry about that, y'all. I'm muting my mic so you didn't have to hear me working on that water bottle. Dr. Emoto. Hey, thank you so much, Drop of Honey Farm. Yeah, Dr. Emoto was the hidden messages in water. I mean, it's phenomenal research, y'all. You have got to check it out. Real quick, I see a question in the chat. Billy, seriously, my wife and I would love a copy of your Psalm narration if you do one. No, I don't do one, but I tell you what, I have this one. I'm going to see what I can do. I mean, I don't know if it's ethical for me to send this out to folks because, the audio Bible was free. And for those that don't know, basically what I do when I go to sleep at night, there's this English dude that does a phenomenal job of reading the whole Bible, really. Can't think of his doggone name, and I'm sure somebody in the chat probably knows who that is. But he's on one of the apps that I have. And so I was talking about the other day that I think, there are these healing whole tones. I went to Whole Tones and I purchased some of their music. And I basically, y'all, I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm so third world on this tech stuff that I basically took one phone with my old phone and an iPad and I recorded it to basically put myself to bed every night. And then I did another version of it, of me motivating myself, trying to become a better person, trying to become a better everything. And I'm doing it up against this music, these healing frequencies, these 444 hertz. Excuse me, I had a cough. 444 hertz and 528, and there's a number of other healing frequencies. Let me see what I can do on that whole, because honestly, I'm telling y'all, it works. I'm waking up. refreshed. I'm doing everything I know how to do. And I'm like, man, I'm going to sleep no time at all, waking up, feeling like $1,000,000. And I'll be honest with you, one of the biggest things I would fight in the morning was waking up and already having negative thoughts. How many of you deal with that same thing? I mean, I wake up in the morning, and yeah, the enemy's already working on me. So that's why I pray before I even get out of bed. Here lately, I'm finding out that when I go to sleep and I'm listening to the Psalms and I'm listening to these healing frequencies, I sleep deeper. In fact, I don't even have to sleep as long. And I wake up feeling like I can go after Moby Dick in a rowboat and take the tartar sauce with me. That's honestly how I've been feeling as of late. All right, before we get into the main stuff here, y'all, EMP Shield, $50 off with promo code PERMA. I've been a journeyman electrician for a long time, y'all, and your number one threat is always going to be lightning. And that's why I reached out to EMP Shield. That's the same with every other advertiser on this show, y'all. If the stuff doesn't work, believe me, I ain't going to screw my reputation up by telling you that it does. EMP Shield, the best in the business. If anything gets downstream of it, they cover you for 25 G's. That's how much they believe in their product. But you can get $50 off with, you need something to cover your car, you need something to cover the house. They got it all, your generator, you name it. They got it at EMP Shield. And like I said, $50 off with promo code PERMA. And in light of what I'm going to talk about, y'all, I know that I'm trying to keep things on the lighter side, but man, I got to keep it real. All right. I'm trying to figure out how to say this and try to put it. Look, man, I'm not good at, I'll be straight with y'all. I'm not good at trying to find nice ways to say tough things. To me, I'd rather just rip the freaking Band-Aid right off instead of just kind of easing into it. I'm going to set this up a couple of ways. All right. So first of all, I heard Dan Bongino talk about this movie on Netflix, and it's called Leave the World Behind. And then I think a day later, I heard Mike Adams, the health ranger, talk about the very same thing. Now, don't watch a lot of TV. And, during the winter months, we might slip in something every once in a while. And I said, Michelle, hey, let's go ahead and watch this thing. It has Julia Roberts in it. And then, basically 2, maybe 3 Oscar winners in it. Kevin Bacon's in it. And I'm like, okay, man, these guys are going on about this movie. And they're talking about people like Bongino said that he actually thought that it was foreshadowing. Now, I got a love-hate relationship with this guy, but let's be honest here. He did work in the highest echelons of security in the United States of Amnesia, worked under 3 different administrations as a Secret Service agent. So he might have a little bit of knowledge about what he's talking about. So the Obamas were the executive producers on this movie. And in a nutshell, I'll try not to mess it all up for you. I hated the movie because, I get the point they were trying to make. And in a nutshell, cyber attack is basically going to disable everything, and then you're going to find this country in mayhem. All right. That's it in a nutshell. But what I hated about the movie was the stupid camera angles. It was probably some little Marchie that wanted to look deep, and he's got all these crazy, weird camera angles that are just irritating me. But even more than that was the idiotic dialogue. I'm like, okay, you mean to tell me with all the movies that, like I said, you have 2, maybe 3 Academy Award winners in this thing, and nobody said, hey, we're starting storylines that don't even go anywhere. They don't make any sense. The dialogue is just stupid. Maybe that writer's strike is why. Maybe that's what this writer's strike is all about. But honestly, as far as dialogue for a movie, I'm like, man, this is about as dumb as it gets. Plot lines that don't go anywhere, things that it's just stupid. But the overall theme of it is basically, Bongino says, hey, you know what? I've seen continuity of government stuff that they have going on. And they got plans for everybody in the power structure. And I mean everybody. They got nothing for you. Unlike Russia, who, by the way, has bunkers where they can put all their people in there. I kid you not. They actually got them in Russia. Places like Switzerland. They actually have things prepared for their citizenry. There is nothing in the United States, okay? Now, I'm not going to tell you any more of the movie, because it's only going to mess it up even worse. But like I said, just be warned. And there's some gratuitous, vulgar language in there. And it was gratuitous in my point. It wasn't like it was language that was being used to make a point. It was just unnecessarily vulgar. All right, look, I'm not a Pollyanna, but I'm like, come on, man. I think you can really demonstrate the creativity of something or a comedian or whatever else if they can be funny without profanity. But anyway, once again, I digress. The movie was stupid, but the point was well made. Okay. In a nutshell, you need to be getting your stuff in it together. I mean, you better get loose or get lost. And maybe that might be what you want to tell some of the people around you right now. But what I want to get into is one of the other things. Now, granted, it seems like, I don't know, a lot of people apparently there's a lot of buzz on that movie. But let me tell you where there isn't a lot of buzz, and there ought to be. That's what's going on in the poultry industry right now. You ain't going to hear this on Fixed News. You're not going to hear it on any of the prostitute media, CNN, MSNBC. None of them are covering it. Let me just break it down for you right quick. So here's another article. I try, and believe it or not, CNN Business actually links some of this stuff. So they're saying right here, bird flu roars back. Bear with me, y'all, because I'm going somewhere with this. Disrupting turkey farms. Okay, in a nutshell, they're saying it had a slow start in 2023, and then in the fall of the migratory season, of this year, it got hit really hard. So check this out. About 68 million birds have been killed since the outbreak, since February of 2022. And cases and in fact, they're saying the cases are about to tick up. Y'all hear what I just said? 68 million. And then here in the last month with 2.8 million birds in the Iowa farms, and that's just a few of them. And in the past month, 1.3 million at an Ohio egg farm. And then before Thanksgiving, turkey prices were already low because there was no major bird flu outbreak. But that changed in the fall migratory system. So just since October, they're saying a lot of this stuff was going to go to deli meat, okay? Well, deli meat's about to go through the roof, if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, y'all, it doesn't end right there. And then I'm saying all this not to freak anybody out because I never give you any problems without offering some solutions, so bear with me. So, another little thing's going on now. This is one that really breaks my heart because I love these animals. Always have ever since I was a kid. I've always been a big fan of whales and sea life. Sea lions I've always loved. Well, nearly 1,000 of them are on the beach down in Brazil. And they had to euthanize nearly 1,000 of the sea lions and seals because they're convulsing on the beach. Now, dig this. They're saying it's bird flu that did it. Okay, you ever seen a flu where anybody's convulsing? Because I haven't. And, what does this ultimately mean? Look, is it going to be another manufactured pestilence that they bust out on us? Maybe, possibly, maybe even probably. We've been a little bit harder to kill than maybe some of them expected. So maybe they think they'll, try to get closer to the Deagle report numbers, using other means. All the other things maybe ain't doing it fast enough. But they're saying basically that all these seals and sea lions caught the bird flu. You dig that? You just dropped. Do you have any idea what turkey, and it ain't just turkey, they're talking about chickens up in here too. Now, the common sense thing is because, where they've gone around euthanizing pigs because they get the flu. Guess what? I've had pigs with the flu. And guess what? The pig I just ate tonight had the freaking flu. And I ate him. Yeah. Well, I let him get healed up first. I mean, I didn't, my point being, a lot of times they recover. And if they do recover, those are animals you want to propagate. This is just common sense. When have you ever heard anybody say, hey, little Billy Bubba over there has the flu. Maybe we ought to, euthanize him. Doesn't make any sense. But why does it make sense when we're talking about animals? Why not first of all, they're using that same test that they use. Now, I got to be careful about how I say this or they'll, you know the deal. They're using the very same test that they used in that latest manufactured pestilence. The test that ain't no good that gives about as many false positives as whatever else. Yeah, that's what they're using. So you just euthanized. I ain't believing it's some flu. I don't even know what it is, y'all. All I'm saying is that the powers that shouldn't be are openly telling you right now that it's about to get stupid. There is nothing I would rather do than talk permaculture 100% of the time. In fact, when we started this show, that was 99% of what we started off doing. But as things start to ramp up and get dumber and dumber and dumber, I feel like I got to cover this stuff because I know you're not hearing it. And a lot of you are working a regular job, man. And you don't have time to keep up with all this. So I feel like to a certain extent, I got to cover this. But like I said, I'll never offer a problem to which I don't provide at least one or two solutions. So look, I'm going to reach into the bank of permaculture and I'm going to offer some things because you don't need to be Edgar Casey to see what's going on here. Okay. And where this thing is leading. Food is already a fortune. We've talked about it a little bit before in the beginning of this podcast. Okay. It is a fortune. It's going to get higher. There are some of you listening right now that do have chickens and let it get bad enough out there. And they're going to try to convince you to euthanize your own birds. I guarantee it. If it gets worse, I guarantee they're going to do it just like they did before. Or they're going to have some gumshoe roll up on your property and tell you, hey, I'm here to take it. And then to which I'll just leave it to you as to how you're going to deal with that. It could be any number of sources. But look, as we get on shakier and shakier ground, when it comes to our poultry, folks, seriously think outside the box as much as you can about alternate ways in feeding your animals, and particularly your chickens, because that seems to be where they're heading right now. And what do I mean by that? We've talked about a number of different methods. I mean, look, if you have your chickens in a holding pen, you could easily do a deep bedding method all through the winter, all year long, really, and just do the deep bedding method. Basically, you throw your carbon out there. You could throw the food scraps out there. Food scraps are easy enough to find depending on how close you are to a city center. Even if you don't, I've talked before about the number of places you can go to, whether it's high schools, junior highs, elementary, you name it. Push come to shove, you can probably find enough food scraps if you couldn't afford the conventional feed. You can do the conventional feed, but that costs money. You can do food scraps and supplement with conventional feed, which is also a really good strategy, especially if you're new to this sort of thing, because your chickens may be missing something. You may not know, your protein intake may not be up to snuff, and then you're going to have egg problems, then you're going to have bird problems. Be thinking about these other things. Chicken tractor on steroids. Eric talked about it last week. We tested his compost. I mean, it is the most revolutionary chicken system on the planet. Jeff Lawton, the great Jeff Lawton, came up with it, inspired by probably Carl Hammer and a number of others, and probably his own experience. He gave us this, and when Jeff Lawton came out with that, I was like, I can't believe the whole world isn't doing this. I had to make some adaptations based on my environment, but I'm like, okay, find me another system where in that system, you can basically have those chickens be raised almost exclusively on scraps and the biota that they get from the compost pile. Produce anywhere between 1 to 3 cubic yards of compost per week. And at the same time, be able to extract birds from the system you can set it up any way you want, every 4 weeks, every whatever. Fill your freezer as you're doing it and do it all with scraps. Now, does it require a little bit out of you in terms of elbow grease? Yep. But how many of us these days got more time than money? All right, if you want to know more about that chicken tractor on steroid system, look, we got a playlist on it. I don't know that there's anybody on planet Earth that has examined that system more than we have. Now, clearly people always ask, well, have you tried it with Cornish crosses? No, I don't believe Cornish crosses would work in that system because those birds are too trifling to walk up a compost pile. I'll be honest with you. They're just not going to work in the system like that, but every other bird that we've tried does. I'm saying all this for a reason, y'all. I'm not saying it to freak you out, make you worry. I think, like the sons of Issachar, we got to see the signs of the times and make preparations for them, don't you? I mean, we live in a world right now where everything seems to be on shaky ground. Now, this is where the cold showers come in too, but honestly, you got to have a sense of humor about some of it. But at the same time, you also have to have solutions for some of it. So even if you have just a handful of chickens, start thinking about that plan B, because when more of these systems, let's think about this. Last time we had the latest manufactured pestilence that went down, do you remember, has everybody already forgotten what was going on with some of the chicken feed? What was going on with some of the nitrogen-based fertilizers? what was going on with a whole lot of things out there that even now people are trying to play catch up with. So be thinking about, because birds are some of the easiest and most helpful things to raise, but be thinking about alternate sources of feed, because honestly, I got a feeling we haven't seen the last of this, and it may be a constellation of a number of things they decide to drop on us. But right now, this is one of the big things. They're talking about it everywhere but America. Like I said, they just smoked 1,000 doggone sea lions down there in Brazil. And they're claiming that it was all because of bird flu, and they're convulsing on the beach. Yeah. I'll let you I'll let you figure out whether or not that makes any sense to you. All right, y'all. I want you to give that some serious thought. Be thinking about these different systems. Like I said, whether it's a static system where you go out there, throw food scraps to them, and then you put in some carbon every day, whether it's something like that, or the same system where you're putting in food scraps along with some commercial feed. You can save a pile of money that way. I mean, a massive amount of money. Because honestly, raising chickens the regular way, if all you're doing is putting commercial feed in there, you're not one dime ahead. You're not. You're not raising chickens for any cheaper. You're not raising eggs for any cheaper. But you can when you figure out ways to use those food scraps. You can actually make money on the deal if you do it the right way. All right, with that said, y'all, when we get back, we'll get straight into the Q&A.
Hey, Chef Keith Snow with your Pimpcast tip of the day, this time making a burnt Basque cheesecake. This is a Spanish dessert that is rather famous. In a stand mixer, add 2 pounds, that's 4 8-ounce packages of cream cheese that has been left to warm up to room temperature. And with the whisk attachment, mix that well for about 2 minutes. Scrape down the sides, then add 2 cups of heavy cream. Slowly incorporate that with the whisk. Then add 1 teaspoon vanilla, half teaspoon of sea salt, and 2 tablespoons of sifted flour. Again, mix this very well. Stop the mixer and scrape down the sides several times. Then add 6 eggs, one at a time, and mix in between the addition of each egg. Then pour this mixture into a parchment-lined springform pan placed on a sheet tray. Then tuck it into a preheated 410-degree oven. I use convection for mine, and cook for about 50 minutes or until the surface is very dark. Remove from the oven. It should be rather jiggly when you take it out, and allow it to cool for 1 to 2 hours. Then remove the springform pan. You can either serve it now and it'll be room temp, or you can chill in the fridge, and it is amazing. With the holidays coming, this is a great dessert to make. I hope you give it a try. For more culinary content and information just like this, check out harvesteating.com.
Bam! Chef Keith Snow, man. Boy, don't be on any diets when he's around. I'm sitting here, man, a Basque cheesecake. Oh, man. Good night, Chef Snow. What are you doing to me? Anyway, y'all, he's got some ballin' coffee and some ballin' spices. Michelle bought some the other day. And, yeah, fantastic. All right, y'all, this segment of the show brought to you by the TexasBoys.com. They got 5% off of everything on their site, and they're the only people I know of on the planet that got a food forest in a box. I got some growing down there right now as we speak. TD and the boys over there are excellent, and it's probably the most suppressed YouTube channel. Well, I'm probably going to catch up with them pretty doggone quick. Now, somebody in the chat mentioned something about Ice Age Farmer. I don't know what happened to that dude. It's like he just fell off the earth. He actually gave me a shout out a while back regarding, in fact, it's funny somebody brought him up. He actually gave me a shout out in one of his last videos about the chicken tractor on steroids. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. But I mean, nobody seems to know where he is. Of course, some rumors spread about. I mean, somebody says he's been snatched up by this or that or whatever the case may be. Who even knows, man? I mean, these days, man, they're just looking to get rid of anybody. I mean, that dude was really dropping some really good information. So if anybody knows where he is or has his videos, please let me know. All right, Dylan writes, I'm going to have to condense this, but basically a while back, Miss Hastings, she was the one that had those goats that got jabbed in the neck, y'all. I don't care what the officials say. Look, I've seen dog attacks, witnessed them up close and personal. Ain't a dog alive that leaves a single puncture wound in the neck of a freaking animal that it kills. Yeah, call Ripley's if that's what it is. But anyway, that's what the people that supposedly did the examination. I smell a rat and I smell a big one. All right. So anybody out there got any comments? If not, I guess we'll go ahead and probably yapped on a little bit longer than I should because it's me in here by myself. And I've been known to basically rap on a little bit more and more. Once again, folks, I want to remind you, I know we talked about it at the beginning of the show, the Mrzinskis, they got a tough name to pronounce, but it's the Mrzinski family homestead. And if you go back to the very beginning of it, I'm going to try to leave it in the show notes down below or put it in the comments after this thing airs. And yeah, they lost a 4-year-old boy and it's tragic. And they got a GoFundMe. We've already donated. And look, I know money's tight these days, but if you can help out, they'd very much need it. They're good folks. I've met them on several occasions. Every single time, they're very, very wonderful, sweet people. And yeah, so my heart goes out to them and everybody else that's lost anybody. It seems like there's a lot of that as of late. All right, y'all. I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for everybody in the chat. Sorry, I can't look at the comments right now. I know they're out there, but I'm afraid I can't see any right now. But thank you so much for everybody, and thank you for that. Thanks everybody for the shout outs, and thank you for the help. Please pass this far and wide because they're back in the suppression mode, y'all. So that's going to do it for me. Until next time, stay alert, stay alive.
Yeah, I'm talking saucy. All they wanna build is a prison world full of pet Tamagotchis. The kamikaze got me out of body like I'm Goku SS3. They wanna push me to the center like a cell. They wanna spin up at the center of the nexus. Me. They want me to bow down, but I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. I will never bow down, 'cause I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. They want me to bow down, but I'm a warrior.